Shannon Hayes from Sapbush Hollow Farm and Cafe, where we aim to nourish and restore family, community, and planet. And this weekend for Sapbush Saturday, we get to cook one of my all-time favorite meats, which is grass-fed lamb. And we're going to be doing Greek lamb bowls because it's summer and it's just a lovely warm weather dish. This is lamb that grows on our farm, and we're going to do Greek cooking because, as you may be aware, the Greeks love to eat lamb, or if you remember Tula's aunt from My Big Fat Greek Wedding, it's not meat, it's a lamb. I don't know if she said it that way though. But anyhow, in order to do this, it's a very simple recipe, and I like it because you can make this up ahead and then you can serve it throughout the week as you want it. The leftovers actually gain in flavor, which is why we're making it early. And the ingredients you're going to use are some onions, garlic, some herbs and spices, and then at the very end we're going to add some fresh mint. And that's one of the reasons why I love to cook this dish at this time of the year, because fresh mint grows absolutely everywhere, whether it's in our back patio at the cafe or along the roadside. If you're any of the 3 people who have ever watched any of my other videos, you know that I'm a big fan of cooking with the fats that we produce on the farm, the lard and the tallow. But today it's Greek cooking, so I am going to indulge in some lovely Greek olive oil in the tradition of the dish. And you'll notice that the pan is already hot, so the olive oil moves all the way around very quickly. And I'm going to start with the onions and the garlic. When you're cooking ground meat, whether it's ground beef or ground lamb, you almost always work with onions and garlic. But you might notice that when you add the onions and garlic to the dish varies. And there's a reason for that. A lot of times in Latin American cooking, you'll add the onions and garlic to the dish at the end, but when you get into some European dishes, then you'll add it in the beginning. And the difference is what you expect from the flavor. If you're trying to bring out the pepperiness and the different textures, as you might with a Mexican dish, you would add the onions and garlic after you've browned the meat. But what we want to do today is we want to use the caramelization of the onions and the browning of the garlic to heighten the flavor profile of meat. So we are adding it before we brown the ground lamb. Once these are cooked down, we'll add that lamb. One of the reasons why the Greeks are so fond of lamb is because it tastes best when lambs and goats can forage on mountainous pastures that are rich in grasses and wild herbs. And they have a lot of that in Greece, but for those of you who've been to West Fulton, you know that here at Sapbush Hollow, we also have a lot of that, which is one of the reasons why lamb is one of our specialty meats. This is basically the centerpiece, what our farm was really built around and what we started with in 1979. Now, seeing as we're in a period of a COVID crisis while we film this, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our meats, because as you may or may not be aware, a lot of small farmers like us are in a crisis period because the closure of the plants out west has caused animals from the industrial food system to be flooded into the small USDA plants that serve farms like ours all across the country. And the little farmers are losing their slaughterhouse booking dates. So farms like ours are losing the ability to bring our fresh meat to you this year, unless we can sell you animal shares, whole and half animals that are purchased before the animal goes to processing and then processed in a custom slaughterhouse. If your farmer needs to do this, please cooperate. They may not be able to sell you a pack of lamb chops this year or just a single pound of ground lamb. They might need to sell you a whole or half lamb cut up into parts, because that's the only way they can follow the law and still stay in business right now if the USDA processors aren't there. If you're interested in getting some lamb from us, we're in the same situation, and you can go to sapbushfarmstore.com where you can order your animal shares. And we do have monthly payment options where you can just take a small amount of meat each month if you don't have a lot of storage space. As you see now, the onions are cooked down, and we're adding the ground lamb. And we're just going to cook that, mixing it in with the onions and the garlic until it's browned. been about 6 or 7 minutes, and you see this ground lamb is all nicely cooked through, and it's time to add the seasonings. And what we're going to do is add a little salt and pepper, and then a little bit more exotic seasoning, some allspice and cinnamon, and then some ginger and crushed red pepper to brighten it, and then some parsley. If you have fresh parsley on hand, that's great, but I didn't do such a good job watering my parsley this week. I'm not going to be adding it right now. Once that's all mixed in, you would add the fresh mint right before you serve it. And you would just sprinkle it right on. Now, when we serve this, as I said, this is going to be a Greek lamb bowl. So what we're going to do is we'll be making turmeric rice, which is just taking any standard rice recipe and adding turmeric while the rice cooks, so it's a bright, beautiful yellow. We're going to put a spoonful of ground lamb on there, some homemade fresh hummus that we make here in the cafe, some fresh cucumbers and tomatoes from Barbara's farm stand down the road, and then some homemade pita bread that we make here in the cafe. And if you're gluten-free, we do have homemade gluten-free pita breads for you as well. And it makes an absolutely beautiful plate and a very, very satisfying summer meal. I just want to mention to you, however, that if you want to come in and have it, if you want to come between 9 and 1, reservations aren't really required. But in the evening, because of COVID, we are cut down to a skeletal staff. We are literally just a mom and pop business in the evenings. It's Bob and me working here together. We wait the tables and cook your food at the same time. Therefore, for the sake of balancing solvency, safety, and sanity, Bob and I are limiting the number of people we accept in the evenings to just 8. So please call or email me, Shannon@satbush.com, if you would like to make a reservation to come, because we do have to limit it. That's all, and if you can't come to see us this week, but if you'd like to make this recipe at home, I will post it on the blog at satbush.com. Have a wonderful week, and happy Satbush Saturday.